Step into the captivating world of the Behind the Curtain podcast, where your dynamic hosts, John Dyer and Dr. Mohamed Saleh, bring together a wealth of 60 years of combined experience in healthcare and manufacturing. Join us every week as we delve into intriguing topics, weaving unscripted conversations that promise to take you on an unpredictable and enlightening journey. Gain valuable insights for your continuous improvement adventure as we navigate uncharted territories with enthusiasm and expertise. Welcome to a podcast that goes beyond the ordinary, unraveling the mysteries behind the curtain of knowledge.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Curtain. I'm one of your co-hosts, Mohamed Saleh, and my other co-host is John Dyer. And today we're going to continue our conversation. So we've been talking about organizational change and the importance of having a certain type of leadership to help through this change. And we've been talking about characteristics. So we've talked about 3 so far, and today we're going to explore a 4th characteristic that is critical as you lead change in organizations. And so today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into those and highlight leaders need to have this mentality of continually learning and developing themselves on this journey. So John, why don't you kick it off for us and tell us your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Mohamed, thanks. Glad to see everybody again. A while back, I wrote an article for Industry Week magazine titled, does it help to have everyone go through lean training? And by everyone, I mean everyone, from the machinist to the, shop floor inspector to the, mid-level manager, and including the executives. I think it's important for everyone to have that shared experience, to develop that shared set of vocabulary so that when someone in a meeting says, you know what, we really don't understand this process, and I think that it would be helpful to do a process map, everyone in the room can nod their head and be like, yeah, I remember that from the training, and you're right, process map would be very helpful. So let's put one of those together. That way, you don't have the have and the have-nots. You don't have the people who have been through the training, who are now the ones who know what's going on, who knows what the vocabulary means, and then the ones that haven't been through the training feel almost shunned, like, wow, you're just throwing out these, new Japanese words like Kaizen and Gemba, now you're just showing off and trying to make those of us who haven't been through the class make us feel like we're inferior. And that never helps to promote teamwork. It never helps to promote, or knock down barriers, knock down walls. Everyone needs to benefit. So let's talk about specifically leaders. Now, I've encountered many, many leaders, throughout my career that when I approach them, hey, are you going to go through the training? They'll either say things like, oh, I went through something similar 20 years ago, or I'm really busy. I don't have the time to invest in 2 or 3 days of training. So can you give me the 30-minute, overview? And what I'll tell them is that, hey, look, I understand you're busy. I understand that, you got a lot of different priorities pulling you in different directions. But if you truly want to change the culture, then you will want to sit through the entire class without your laptop, without your cell phone. Tell everyone that you're out of the office for those 2 or 3 days, because, yeah, you may not learn anything new. Okay, maybe you already know it all. But what you're doing is you're sending a message to the rest of the organization that, 1, this is a priority. 2, that you're in it with them. And 3, that you now become a lot more relatable, because the people that are in that class with you will spread word throughout the organization that, hey, our executive vice president or our general manager is a real person, and they have some of the same, issues that we have, and you become a lot more relatable to the rest of the organization, which is what this is all about, right? I mean, it's about building a cohesive team where everyone is supporting everyone else. And the only way to do that is to, create those bonds. So I think it's critically important that, and one last thing real quick, and then I'll get your thoughts. I mentioned that some leaders will say, well, I already know it all. But every time I've had leaders come into the training, they'll be at the end of the class, they'll be like, whoa, I had no idea. I thought I understood what lean was, or I thought I understood how teams work or how make improvement happen. But boy, I had no clue how successful up to this point, that you've had the wrong perception or the wrong understanding of what's really going on. So yeah, I think everyone will learn something or
Yeah.
take away something as long as the training is good training.
Yeah, yeah, as you were talking about that, I'm just reflecting of how many times I've had senior leaders say, "Could you give me the abridged version of this?" And it comes down to two things. If you view this as a spectator sport, then and you just want to know how are you're just bought in. You're not engaged, you're not committed, you're just bought in. um, then the impact that's going to have on the organization is that they're going to see that you're not really walking the walk. The second thing, and I think it's a bigger problem to solve for, is the mentality of that leader. Is the mentality of the leader, I still have a lot to learn. This is a journey. Or do I have a destination mindset to say, hey, I've already learned it, checkbox, I've done this, and I have no more room for growth.
I
And
think just real quick, I think there's another reason. I think sometimes leaders don't want to look like they don't know everything in front of their peers and in front of their direct reports or people that are deeper in the organization. I've had leaders that'll tell me, yeah, I don't have time to sit in on the training, but I tell you what, I'll be there for the kickoff. And they'll come in and they'll say a few, nice words to start it off, and then they'll sit in a chair in the back or off to the side observing.
Mhm,
And they may end up staying for most of the class, but
mhm,
as an observer. And it's like, well, why didn't you just sign up for the training? Why weren't you a participant?
yeah,
And I think a lot of times it's like, well, they don't want to become vulnerable. They don't want to make it look like they don't have all the answers. So it's easier just to sit on the sideline and observe. And that's not the same. Again, you're not letting the rest of the organization see the real person when they do that.
yeah, yeah. And fundamentally, if you don't want to attend training, um, it could just be a symptom, because there's fear of being viewed as not knowing it, knowing everything. Hmm. But sometimes like I go to conferences, and at every conference I come back learning something. And I'm like super excited about it because I've programmed myself that I'm not always right. I program myself probably half of the stuff I'm doing is probably not right. I'm not sure if the success I'm getting is luck or based on design. And so I'm constantly wanting to learn to find out. Some of it is validation of things I've learned, but there's always nuggets.
Right.
Even when I hear my own material being taught by someone else and I listen to it, I sometimes see it from a different perspective. And so, you know, leaders, I think, have a critical role to play. But as a characteristic, if I'm a leader, I'm trying to demonstrate to my team through change that I'm willing to learn and I have a mindset for growth. And by not attending training, by not being vulnerable to say I don't know it all, has a opposite effect for successful change.
Yeah, I agree. And it kind of reminds me of a situation where in a particular training class, we had the CEO of a company, and I mean, it was a pretty good sized company, very old company, over 100 years old. And he wasn't the one who brought me in. It was one of his vice presidents for one of the divisions. But as this went on, he became more and more interested in what we were doing. And then he actually decided to sign up for the actual training class, two-day course. And it was fascinating because he came in a three-piece suit, right? And there were a lot of machinists and, people in dirty jeans and torn shirts and it was great. And he did a terrific job of getting engaged and involved in the different activities. Well, there's one particular activity, and I won't go through the whole activity, but basically, it involves a catapult made out of K'NEX pieces. K'NEX are those, building materials that you can use, kind of like Legos, but more like structural pieces. Yeah. So I have catapults that are made out of those K'NEX, and one of the challenges that I give to the various teams that are set up, sub teams in the class, is that to hit a specific target, launching ping pong balls with the catapult. And earlier in the class, we talked about paradigms, and how we get to a point where we see things a certain way for so long, it's hard for us to see it in any other way. And so the challenge is to hit this target. And so the CEO was at this one particular table with his team, and they had done a really terrific job of building this catapult and getting it all ready to go and everything. And I said, okay, how confident are you that your team is going to hit the target? Oh, he was like, we're very confident. We're 100% confident. And then I just reach over and smash the catapult into pieces. Connects pieces go flying all in different directions. And I said, okay, now how confident are you? And he looked at me with anger and his face turned beet red. And his reaction, he was like, what did you do to our catapult? And then all of a sudden, the paradigm broke, because at no point in the exercise did I say that you had to use the catapult to hit the target. They assumed you had to use the catapult. And that was the paradigm. And he all of a sudden, that light bulb went off in his mind, and he said, wow, we didn't have to use this catapult. We could have just, dropped the ping pong ball on the target. And it's like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, he went into this really great speech in front of the whole class saying, you know what? Here at this company, we're over 100 years old. This is exactly our problem. We don't smash catapults. We keep doing it the same old way, assuming it's got to be done a certain way. And the only way we're going to get any better as a company is if we start smashing our catapults. And he actually wrote a long essay in the company newsletter about how the need for smashing catapults. He asked if he could have one of these K'NEX catapults, and I gave him one, and he had it bronzed and mounted to a plate that's on the boardroom table of that company as a reminder. And every time from that point on, anybody came to him with a proposal on, investing in new capital equipment or making a big change, his first question every time was, how does this smash the catapult? And if it doesn't, I don't want to even talk about it, because this is old way of thinking. I want us to start thinking in new ways. So think about that, right? If he hadn't attended the class, he wouldn't have had that big aha moment that changed the course of that entire company. I mean, they all of a sudden got the message that we're moving out of the 19th century and moving into the 21st century. And so you never know. You never know what's going to inspire people, what's going to hit people, and change the whole culture and course of a particular organization.
Yeah, yeah. I love what you're saying. I love that story. Like that is definitely now you got me thinking about smashing catapults. And but to kind of summarize this is you helped him go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And fundamentally, if I'm a leader that goes in and says, I already know this stuff, then that's a fixed mindset. That's a status quo mindset. My sensei would say, Mohammed, these are people who are legends in their own head. That's it. They've made this legend in their head of they already know all this. There's no room for growth. It's a fixed mindset. And so I think as you help leaders change, as you lead change, leaders have to really step back and say, I have to approach change with a growth mindset. I have to smash catapults. I have to be willing to do the little things that need to be done. And I have to, most importantly, show my vulnerability that I don't know it all. And I have to then go into this training. I don't want the executive summary. If anything, I want more because I'm leading my team. I don't want less. And so this is what you're giving them? Okay, what more could you give me to help lead my team? Not what less could you give me? Because if you approach a transformation or any change from the perspective that it will be delegated, that it's beneath you, that you've already learned all this stuff, you don't need to do it, most of the time, that change, if not all the time, that change will fail. And so I think as a leader, if you're leading change, one of the characteristics of that continuous learning and development, it is critical, and you could be sabotaging your own transformation by not attending these kind of things.
And almost doesn't that then become a bit of a litmus test?
Yeah.
For which leaders truly are engaged and which ones are just, on the surface, they're involved but not committed. And again, I think that's critically important. We talk about how hard it is to change the culture, and again, there's some leaders that don't want to change the culture. They like the way that it's being done now, even though it might be horrible. It might be using fear and hierarchical structures and control and firefighting, continuous firefighting. That may be their thing because they're the heroes, the constant heroes, and they don't want to change the culture. And this is a pretty good litmus test. If you're not willing to engage yourself and better yourself through continuous learning and training, then you may be the blocker for why the company and the organization is stuck.
Yeah, I love it. Well, this was a wonderful episode. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Hopefully, our listeners could think about this paradigm shift of smashing the catapult, and walking away with that you have a role in change, and that continuous improvement and development has to be a mindset. You have to have that growth mindset, and you have to lead by example. And being vulnerable is okay. It's actually encouraged because you learning will allow everyone around you to want to learn as well.
All right. We'll see you next week, and we'll continue our discussion on leadership characteristics.
Sounds good. Take care, everyone.
As we draw the curtains on another fascinating episode, We wanted to express our gratitude for joining us on this enlightening journey. If you're hungry for more captivating and thought-provoking discussions with John Dyer and Dr. Mohamed Saleh, hit that subscribe button to ensure you don't miss a beat. Until next week, keep exploring, stay inquisitive, and stay inspired. See you on the next Behind the Curtain adventure.